Me.
Thank you so much. I am looking at the attendees list, and it is like I'm having a high school reunion on this attendee list, Cindy. And so funny that we talk about, kind of the longevity of leadership. And I wanted to just call out Kristen Idakavage, who happens to be on the call today. And 25 years of strong leadership started at the Leadership Academy that the two of us were in together, like back in 2006. So when we, talk about leadership, it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And as leaders, we have the opportunity to continue growing and learning, but most importantly, transferring those skills to others so that we grow our cohort of leaders. So I'm tickled to see Kristen here. And for those of you that are joining, thank you so very much. I have asked Mariah to join me in advancing the slides, and so Mariah, if you want to go ahead and move on to the next slide. This slide is just it's exactly what Cindy just said, right? A champion for kiddos, families that love kiddos, and heroes that teach kiddos. And I think that it's important for us to always have our stakeholders in mind, and particularly when we are developing leadership capacities. And so in early education, there are a multitude of stakeholders in our field, but for me, it all boils back down to the children that we serve, and then the system that's really lifting up the children. And that's the families and the teachers. And so I really strive to use that lens in the work that I do and ensure that that value system that respects children, families, and teachers is always in place. But as Cindy mentioned, I do have a pretty long history in early education, like I would imagine many of you on the call do. Started back in the classroom, and in fact, one of the wonderful heroes in early education that I worked with as a classroom teacher is also on the call today. Jenny, thank you for being here. But after spending some time in the classroom and then moving into an administration role, I realized that there are so many facets to this field that I wanted to be a part of and that I wanted to share influence in. And so, after working in service to kids and families in a child care center, moved into curriculum development. And so, wrote curriculum for early education, moved into nonprofit, where I met Kristen at the Directors Leadership Academy with resource and referral, and then into corporate childcare. And in corporate childcare, led the education and quality team for a number of the large childcare organizations across the country. And that gave me a wonderful lens into teachers and serving teachers, training teachers, providing resources and materials to teachers, family engagement, and then thankfully a pathway into advocacy where I met Cindy and our work together with NECPA. And now at the national level with NCCA and lobbying. Most recently, I have been the acting CEO of the Georgia Child Care Association. And wow, what an experience that was. Very humbling experience where my leadership skills were tested every day and where I really had the chance to kind of hone my philosophy on leadership. And so that's really what I wanted to share with you guys today is just a real casual, informal, honest reflection on what it means to create lasting impact through leadership in early education. But before we do that, I want to take a look at the chat. I want to see who's here. So I see Bree from Indiana. Very nice to meet you, Bree. Several of my old colleagues. I'm so excited to see Tiffany and Jenny here. I saw Sarah log in, Lynn Wenger. Lynn and I were just together this weekend doing some great talks about early education. several other individuals that are new to me. So I can't wait to get to know you through this chat. I am, or I try to be, an engaging kind of facilitator. And so I'm going to ask you guys to chat in and share your own leadership experiences. Hello, hello, hello to everyone. This is a great audience. We've got 20 in attendance. That's impressive and a great group. So thank you, Mariah, for advancing the slide. We'll stay here for just a second. I wanted to speak about having impact as a leader. Leadership is not about authority, leadership is not about power. A lot of people would say that leadership is about influence, and I think that it is certainly necessary, critical, and essential that you have created a sense of trust in your constituents and your stakeholders and your audience such that you're able to have influence. But for me, really, leadership is best demonstrated by impact. I want to know that the effort that I'm putting into place is having a positive result for whatever stakeholder audience I might be trying to assist or advance. And so having impact as a leader, really touches to the context of all of the areas of early childhood and how we make change for children and families, how we create opportunities for our staff and our communities, but also recognizing the incredible influence and importance that our industry has on the infrastructure of the broader society. And there has been no other time in recent history that there's been so much awareness and conversation about the impact of early education. And so, if there were ever a time in any of our careers that we were really going to be able to measure the impact that we have as a collective voice, it's now. And in particular, like this moment in time, because of just the rich, rich, rich conversation that going on around funding and around policy and around legislation. And so couldn't be a better time for this conversation. Mariah, let's go ahead and move on. So there are lots of words on this screen, and not expecting that you necessarily can see them all. This is a little bit more for my benefit than anyone else's. But being impactful is much more than just operating a successful business in early education, right? Lots of industries are measured by their ROI or by their profit or by their margins, but being impactful in early education really centers around creating environments where children and families and staff can flourish and develop to their fullest potential. And in order to do that, we have to inspire and empower our staff and really foster this culture of continuous learning and improvement. We have to really pay attention to compliance and accountability, right? Because we have a responsibility to do the right thing in the right way for the right people all the time. It encompasses advocating for policies and practices that support the overall high quality and care and education for children, and including all children and families, regardless of their background, right? To be sure that they all have access to the opportunities that they need to succeed. And so really, when we talk about impactful leadership, it's the combination of vision and action. Impactful leadership requires action. And so, one of the outcomes of today's presentation, I hope, is that we're able to share some of our activities together, some of the things that we have done individually as leaders in our own communities and with our own organization. Because as we share our own role and the legacies that we're creating in our individual lives, it really begins to amplify our impact, right? And helps us overcome challenges and be innovative so that we can really provide the best possible start for every child in our care. So what I'd like to do is first of all ask you in the chat to take 30 seconds to think about it, and then to type just one sentence, very brief, simple definition. What does leadership mean to you? What does leadership in early education mean to you? And thank you, Mariah, for chatting that in as well. What does leadership in early education mean to you? And since we're operating on the chat, and since you guys are significantly smarter than I am, I'm going to not only invite you to read the chat, but I'm also going to share out loud. Mary says leading by example. Jonathan says serving. Evangeline, positive role modeling, right? Very much by leading by example. Kristen, not being in charge but taking care of those in my charge, right? Love that. Believing that we are truly better together. Thank you, Lynn. Seeing the potential in everyone, having a growth mindset, and showing your trust to inspire your people. Excellent contribution, Jenny. Thank you. Jackie says essential servitude. She's got a comment in there, but I love this idea that comes to mind with essential servitude. Like, and the nature of service being essential. Without it, not being able to move forward. Empowering your team, holding accountable everyone that interacts with kiddos. Tiffany, that's a really wonderful thing to bring to the table, right? That we have a responsibility not only to be accountable to our own value system, but we also have a responsibility for the kids and families that we serve to really hold everyone else accountable too. So thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. What I love about that exercise and making you think about it so quickly is if you reflect back on what you typed, chances are what you typed includes leadership capacities and characteristics that you yourself have. When we don't give ourselves too much time to think, then we go back into our frog brains and we think about what we know and what we do. And so, what you typed into the chat box is probably something that you yourself demonstrate. And I'd like to suggest that that is your superpower in leadership. Whatever you typed in that chat box, I want you to write it down on a piece of paper so that you can take it away with you. And that is your superpower. And as we talk about collective leadership, right? We need all of your superpowers to be impactful. The Avengers, none of them is nearly as impactful when they're saving the world as when they come together and really work together with each other's superpowers. Um, I look at the different kind of pillars in early education and where we have an opportunity to be impactful. And as I go through these pillars, I'd like to think about, and I'd like you to think about where your superpower may have the most influence and where your superpower can bring the biggest bang for the buck. And on this screen, there are four kind of pillars of impact. The first pillar of impact is educational impact. And I start there because I feel like that's the one that we most often go to when we talk about early education and the opportunity that we have. We think about educational impact. And that certainly is very, very relevant. And there's no doubt that childcare and early childhood education, early care and education, however you would like to speak about the work that we do, that we have influence on the educational development of children and learning outcomes and things like cognitive development and language acquisition and social skills and emotional well-being and readiness for school. And we are the experts in those areas. And believe it or not, the rest of the world is not so informed. you you are hopefully giggling because every day I am made aware of how little information is out in the world about the essential need for early childhood development from 0 to 5, right? 0 to 8. But we have a responsibility as leaders with educational impact to spread the word and to educate our communities, starting with our teachers and our families, our friends, our business partners, customers that we serve, and also businesses that we are customers of. Like anywhere you can be a champion for the value of early education, it is important that we do that. We are community experts. There is also critical need for us as early educators to talk about the impact of quality. And so, another pillar of leadership and another place that you can have impact is the champion that you are for quality and the degree to which your services meet or exceed the established quality standards and benchmarks, right? And that goes from, licensing standards to quality rated improvement standards, all the way to accreditation standards, and then even beyond that to community standards. And speaking of your mission and your vision and your values, and holding yourself accountable to those promises that you make to families. But at a minimum, being a leader really includes committing to the highest of standards and staff qualifications, in the use of research based curriculum and effective implementation, employing the highest safety measures and health standards, and really just being an overall purveyor of program excellence. These are our two areas that, often come to mind when we talk about early childhood: educational impact and quality impact. Um, Another two pillars, though, that when we're speaking specifically about childcare and early education programs, we know too that there are financial impacts and regulatory impacts, that we not only need to be aware of, but that we need to be proud of. We need to be proud of the fact whether we're working in for profit or nonprofit is irrelevant. In every case, if we're serving children, there are costs associated, which means that there are revenues coming to us. They could be grant funded revenues, they could be publicly funded revenues, they could be privately funded revenues. No matter where the dollars are coming from, to be a financial leader in early education, you must make a commitment to doing the right thing with those dollars. And not only the right thing, but the right way. Monies that come to us in early education oftentimes come with guidelines and come with requirements and come with accountability. And we can't leave those things aside if we hope to be a leader in early education, but more importantly, if we hope to have a financial impact for our families, making sure that we give what we promise and that we deliver on the dollars that they contribute, to our staff, that we advocate for appropriate wages, that we advocate for benefits, that we advocate for best practice as employers, right? So that childcare and early education and all of the related work is a highly desirable, sought after career. Because as I'm sure you're sitting on the other side of the screen, I sit here really proud to be part of the early education profession. And I want other people to join me who are passionate, who are committed, who are smart advocates, who, are really creative thinkers. And in order to do that, I have to show them how, proud I am, and be supportive of all the things that they do. So financial impact is super, super important. And then the last pillar that's referenced on this slide is regulatory impact. And regulatory impact, is kind of where I feel like traditional advocacy starts to pick up. And oftentimes our voices start and our advocacy efforts begin when we are advocates for ourselves to our to our regulating body in our states. Sometimes it's a little intimidating to go to our legislators, but we in the early childhood profession have become very, very accustomed to working with our regulators because we are one of the most heavily regulated industries across the board. And so we build relationships with our regulatory offices. We advocate for ourselves, and we talk about our experiences so that we can build better regulations for those that come next, right? And so I think that we have to speak about the opportunity that we have as early education leaders to really influence health and safety standards, to influence licensing regulations, to influence compliance practices and compliance measures. As QRIS is coming into more and more requirements for funding, then we want to be very, very vocal and speak up about our experiences around continuous quality improvement and compliance, and how, as strong leaders and successful persons, we've been able to achieve those things. So before I move on to a second set of pillars, I've done a lot of talking. And so I want to turn us back into the chat. And Cindy got us started. Leadership in childcare and early education means holding your team accountable for a job they can be proud of. And absolutely. I'd like to stay in that vein and ask each of you to chat in. What are you most proud of in early education? When you talk about your career and the years that you've spent in this field, talk about a win that you had that you are really, really proud of, or talk about something that somebody on your team does or did that. Exactly, Mariah. Let's share a win. So think about your superpower. Think about this conversation that we've had for the last few minutes, and let me know what have been some of your wins. While you do that, I'm going to set a timer because I forgot to do that before. So I'm looking in the chat. Who's going to be brave and share a win first? Maybe the most challenging thing for leaders to do is talk about their wins. Absolutely. Jenny Hofer, thank you. I'm proud to be a role model for other educators. And that they can see in your work that it's more than a job. It can be a lifelong career full of richness and impact. And if there's anyone that can attest to that for Jenny Hofer, it's me, considering that our first work together was in 2001. We've both been in this work together since 2001. A lifelong career of richness and impact. Sharon says, successfully encouraged employees to further their education and help them find financial assistance. Yes, Sharon, thank you so much. Right? We have to be willing to help our staff and help our families access all of the great things that we have to offer. Mariah says she's proud of her adaptability. And man, oh man, that's something we can all speak of in early education. Sarah says the impact on children and families and getting them the intervention services that have allowed them to thrive. And I know for Sarah and for so many of you, some of the inspiration about choosing that leadership pathway is the impact that leadership pathway had on us. So oftentimes the passion and the pathway that we're most enthusiastic about is the passion and pathway that we ourselves were able to benefit from. And so, like Sharon, encouraging her staff to improve their education and helping them access financial resources, those individuals will likely go on to do the same thing. Jackie being an agent of change, David, that he found his calling to help children and family find their pathway to success. Bree, I love this. I stayed true to my beliefs as a human, even when I became a boss. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for all of this accomplishment and for all of this pride in the work that you do and the work that we do as a united community of early educators. Mariah, let's go on to the next slide, please. There are four other pillars that I wanted to mention before we move on to a framework for leadership. Um, Community impact really refers to the broader effects of childcare and the childcare business that we have on the surrounding community and our society at large. You know, there is a lot of conversation right now about the impact of early education on our economy and the infrastructure supports that we provide that allow other people to participate successfully in society. And a lot of times we center that around work. And that's important, right? We have to have a means of earning income to advance and support and care and keep safe ourselves and our families. And so work is critical. But early education provides a series of community supports that I think sometimes are overlooked around the idea of connection and how the childcare community oftentimes serves as a hub of connection for its teachers to network with one another, for its parents and families to network with one another and to access community resources and community knowledge. And there's just not enough conversation around that as far as I'm concerned, and the social good that early education provides for its community. And so, as leaders in early education, although there is a great story to tell about how we impact economic development in our communities and how without the support of early education and childcare, you know, things kind of come to a halt. We also want to really, really shout from the rooftops how important early education and the community that cares for children is to the fabric of the community as a whole. And how the connections that we're not only building, but the connections that we're facilitating and the support that we're offering as others reach out to access other relationships and resources, that we really, really um, offer support in such a wide variety of ways, not just for children, but also for adults. And adults need to be secure and safe and solid to support children in a high quality way. So community impact, giant, parent and staff. We look at those set of stakeholders very specifically, and how we not only give parents the opportunity to work and to pursue education and their own career goals, but that we also help them understand and perform their family responsibilities, and give them great role models for being members of the community. And similarly, for our staff, like Sharon said, accessing education, accessing professional development, having somebody looking out for their well being, advancement, not only in their careers, but also in their social opportunities. Like, we are inclusive of so many supports in early education. Being inclusive of so many supports, though, on what is often very limited budget, I want to spend the last few minutes talking about the impact and opportunity that early education and its educators have around innovation. And so our innovation impact, you know, this is maybe a little bit of a trendy conversation to have, um, but we, as the current generation of early education leaders, have the opportunity to not only embrace current research and emerging research, to encourage consistent and continuous evaluation of our programs and our practices so that we constantly get better, to be thinking about the ways that environment and culture and community and systems are impacting children on a daily basis and being willing to adapt, right? Our methodologies. I noticed adaptability was one of the superpowers of our industry in the chat. And one of the things that many of you noted as being something that you're so proud of is the agile nature of you as a leader and of our industry. And when we apply this to innovation, not only does it result in new practice and new product and new technology, but it also results in new enthusiasm and new inspiration, right? Like we sometimes forget that without that daily minute of inspiration and motivation, any part of our work can kind of become mundane and routine. And the last thing that children are is mundane and routine. There is no day that is the same in early education, and therefore no solution that is the same. And so, what I'd like to spend another minute or two in the chat talking about is your innovative ideas for the next generation of advocacy. So let's think about as a group tomorrow, next year, the next few years. What do you think the big topic is going to be? Like, where do you think the next big idea is going to come from? Or where do you think the next big initiative or the next big piece of legislation should be centered around? Or what do you think is the next big early childhood trend that is really going to change the game for kids and for families and for teachers? And that's asking you to stretch just a little bit. It's asking you to stretch. But I want you to think about, where do you think our sites need to be? And what do we need to be learning more about so that we can continue to be leaders with an innovation impact? So Sharon mentioned 3 UPK, so universal pre-kindergarten for 3-year-olds. And if that is the next big thing, then how, as early education leaders, do we need to show up for that? What do we need to know? And how do we need to educate others? What is our story going to be? And what examples will we be able to have in our own careers that can support our position on 3PK? Sharon, I think that's a great thing to bring to the table. And it really doesn't matter what your position is on 3PK. That's not what we're here to talk about right now. What we're here to talk about is, what kind of preparation do we need to do in order to be a strong advocate for whatever our position might be? Affordable childcare and livable wages. Evangeline, thank you so much, right? We've got two stakeholders. We've got families and staff, and they have very different needs. Families need affordable childcare, and staff need livable wages. And some people might say that those two things are impossible to achieve together, but I say differently. I say there is absolutely a pathway for affordable access to high quality care and livable wages to our staff. And so, as advocates and leaders, we've got to sit down and we've got to internalize, what can I do to support that message? What solutions can I offer? And how willing am I to do my part to see what we can come up with, right? Family involvement and buy in. Bree, thank you for that. Um, it is possible that we have lost some of our family buy in because we are effectively, oftentimes, providing a service that families, by its design, cannot be part of very easily, right? We're caring for kids while they are somewhere else. But if we go back to those pillars, right, to that pillar of parental impact, that pillar of community impact, we need family engagement in order to move our industry to where we want it to be, which is system level support and high quality engagement for the community. Lynn talks about a collaborative that studies other industries. Love this, Lynn, right? We've got such great solutions in other industries? And how can we take those solutions that are working in manufacturing, or those solutions that are working in finance, or those solutions that are working in hospitality, whatever it might be? But how can we take those solutions and apply that best practice to our own work, right? So much great innovation in the last 60 seconds. Imagine if we take 60 days to really convene around innovation impact and where we see the field of early education going, and agreeing on what we need to do now to be ready for when it's time to advocate for those ideas. So thank you so much for your chat. I want to now move into a little bit of a framework for a way to pattern some leadership initiatives in your own life. And so, if we, Mariah, will move to the next slide, please. Um, I gave a bit of the story of where I've been in my past. Today, I am the founder of a consulting firm called Aim for Impact. So, taking all of my previous experiences and trying to build them into a service for early education. And around that idea, building some frameworks that we can all apply in our lives to make some of these activities a little bit more accessible. And so, as part of this presentation and thinking about what I'd like to share with you, the last kind of 10 minutes I want to take to share with you an idea that I have around an impact framework for leadership. And so, if you want to go ahead and advance to the next slide, Mariah. I love an acronym, guys. I am a fan of an acronym. Early education, we are fans of acronym. And so we're going to spell the word impact in our framework. So if you've got a piece of paper and you want to, IMPACT. That's where we're going to end, is with our impact framework for leadership. And the setting of the stage, I is for identifying your stakeholders. So when you are engaging on any leadership initiative, the very first thing you have to do is identify your stakeholders. Who is going to be impacted by this message that you are trying to celebrate? And so we went through a lot of stakeholders in the first portion of our presentation. And so identifying stakeholders is the first step in creating a leadership framework. That is I. M stands for mapping your priorities. And to map your priorities, we've got to start with a needs assessment, right? What that group of stakeholders is going to be most impacted by. And then prioritizing those needs in whatever way makes sense, but it also in what we can achieve, right? It As a long-term advocate, one of the lessons that I've learned is a fast fail when my priorities were too broad, when I didn't know exactly what I wanted, or if in the current climate or environment, what I wanted just wasn't a possibility. And if I had done a better job of mapping my priorities and understanding what my opportunity was, rather than having a fast fail, may have had a more steady win. And so, as I take on advocacy and leadership today, I use that mapping of priorities to make sure that I can right size what I'm advocating and the project that I'm leading, right? P stands for planning your assessment methods. And it's unfortunate how often we get to the end of a goal and then decide how we're going to measure our success. We want to start setting the stage by planning our assessment methods to begin with. So, if we identify our stakeholders as children, we map our priorities as improving the quality of their block center, Then I want to plan my assessment, right? What does it mean to improve the quality of blocks? Don't wait until I'm done. If I wait until I am done, I've got a yes or no. Did I win? But if I think about my assessment method at the beginning, then not only do I have a pretty standard plan for how I'll achieve that goal, but I've also got a more objective reflection there at the end. Let's move on to the next slide, Mariah. We take the stage with our ACT, and how wonderful is it that ACT spells act for action? I didn't even realize that until this moment. Wow, it's like, whew, I'm loving it. All right. So the fourth step is to assess, right? We want to certainly um, take a reflective look at what we have determined our stakeholders to be, what we have decided our priorities are, what our assessment methods are going to be. And then we use our assessment methods to collect and analyze our data and reprioritize our needs if necessary. And then we create an action plan and take action. And that's truly where leadership starts, is with the action that we take. And so that's where I settled on the impact framework, is that influence is fantastic, but action is really, really, really what is necessary to be a strong leader in early education. Mariah, let's go one more slide and then I'm going to wrap it up. So, I wanted to share some stories of impactful leadership. That was my plan. But what I love instead is that you shared your stories of impactful leadership in the chat. And so, if we go back to those moments that you are proud of, those are leadership stories that are impactful. Those are leadership stories that make a difference in our industry. Those are leadership stories that I'm going to reflect on and read again when I need to be motivated and when I need to be inspired. But I also love Chat GPT. Raise your hand or give me a reaction, a thumbs up, a heart, a laughing emoji if you have played with Chat GPT. Oh, yeah. Okay. I am a giant fan of Chat GPT. Chat GPT will write poems for you. Chat GPT will tell you a joke. Chat GPT will write a training outline if you need one. Like, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and I am a carb lover. I went into Chat GPT this morning and I wrote a prompt. Give me a list of modern early childhood leaders. And this is the list that was provided by ChatGPT. Lillian Katz, Deborah Stipek, Ellen Galinsky, Jack Shonkoff, Marcy Whitebook, Louise Derman Sparks, Sue Bredekamp, Carol Brunson Day, Jana Fleming. And there may be one there at the bottom that I can't see. And what I love about this list is the opportunity that we have as just average everyday humans. Ooh, Prana Richards, Sharon, yes, excellent. Love that. Um, the opportunity that we have as average everyday folks in early education to connect with these folks through LinkedIn or through websites or through messaging. There are a number of these individuals that you could find on LinkedIn and send a message to, and they would reply back to you today. And I challenge you to do that. I challenge you to use LinkedIn, and when you see a post of somebody that you're really impressed by, that you want to be more like in your life, reach out to them with a direct message and say, "Hey, can I get to know you a little bit better?" That's what I did with Prana Richards just very recently. We did that with Prana Richards, where I just said, "Hey, Prana, can I have a call with you and get to know you better?" And so, as we strive to be impactful leaders, we also recognize that we can't do it alone. And so, what I'd like to invite everybody to do as a close to this session, if you would be willing to share your contact information in the chat for others to connect on this leadership journey that we're on together. I will start by putting my name and my email. And if you don't want to, that's okay, friends. This is a no pressure exercise. But I think that, one of the greatest things about webinars like these is that we meet people we never would have met before, and we hear from them what their passion is. And then we can connect with them on a personal and professional level. So I'm there, Jamie Reckhammer, Jamie.Reckhammer at aimforimpact.org. Sorry. And then there are about 20 other participants, and I see many of you adding your information here. And Mariah, if we can collect the email addresses of those people that put them into the chat and then share them out, I think that would be wonderful and provide for us a cohort of individuals who want to be impactful leaders in early education. Thank you guys for having me. I'm just thrilled to have been asked. This is such an outstanding group, NCCA and NECPA, part of my heart and part of my own early childhood journey from one. And so I love that I am able to continue to connect and support these two groups. Thank you to everyone who joined, particularly my fan club and my besties who were there. I am so grateful for your support always and forever. And Cindy, I'll turn it back to you.
Jamie, of course, we all learned something new, and you did a great job of encouraging us to connect, which is all about our NCCA grassroots advocacy efforts. And so, again, I bet you've inspired many on this call, as you always do me, to do more for making sure that there is representation of all of our small centers and educators at every table where we are being discussed. Because who knows the industry better than everyone that goes to work every day in this industry or spent years? I would also ask you to tell us a little bit about, and maybe I missed this, but did you talk to us a little bit about your new
No,
consulting?
I didn't, because I knew I was going to run out of time, Cindy, and I was much more interested in talking about leadership than talking about me. But thank you for that. I have launched a consulting firm, Aim for Impact, with the intention of working one-on-one with childcare programs around the areas of quality improvement, professional development, and local advocacy. And so my first venture was working with GCCA. And so Idisha Bellamy, I noticed, is on the call, is the new CEO of the Georgia Child Care Association. And so I was so grateful to be able to hang on to that for her until she could come take it over. And we're thrilled that she's in Georgia. My intention is to work with individual programs or groups of programs, and really just take a holistic look at where we are with the needs assessment, and then any of the areas that I can support in helping them grow. And then also finding other fun projects. And so I think that the way that we stay passionate and fueled is by filling our cups with things that are fun as well. And so I've got an AI project and some research with Stanford, and I'm writing a book. So it's all really cool, good, fun things. But if you think there's a way that I could help you in your program, then I would love for you to reach out, and we could talk more about it.
Absolutely.
Well, we wish you the greatest of luck in your new consulting business, and we know that you are a blessing to this industry. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Thank you so much, Jamie. We appreciate you for taking the time to share your expertise with everyone today, and everyone who was so participating in the chat. We really appreciate it because that's why you get the most out of it, right? You want to hear what other people are saying, not reinvent the wheel, share amazing ideas, and grow as leaders. So thank you all for being here today. Once we end today's session, please note again, if you'd like a continuing education certificate, the survey that you have to fill out will pop up right on the screen right after I end the session, and then you can just fill that out and it'll spit one back out at you so that you'll have that for your records. And for the winner of the gift card today is Daisy Lazama, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So Daisy, thank you for being here today. Congratulations. And I think you also dropped your email in the chat to share along with Jamie. So I will be sure to follow up with you afterwards. And again, thank you all for being here and for participating. And Jamie, always happy to see you and to hear you present. So have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Bye.